in Sydney in 1947, lived in Newcastle till 1964, joined the bank, relieving staff, called up for national service and joined the Air Force in August 67 and thus dodged national service. I suddenly realised after I got my national service call up that I'd barely qualified for pilot training, and while I had no major interest in it, I was too busy surfing and having fun, I thought that was something I'd like to do because I didn't really know what I wanted to do with my life. And having realised that I had that bare minimum education, Maths 1, Maths 2 and physics, bare passes, I decided to try for the Air Force, which I did. And it was a very rapid recruitment and within 6 months I was in the Air Force and started at Point Cook in late August 67 on 67 pilots course. You never knew how you were going or whether you were going to survive, either physically or academically or competence-wise flying. But you're with people that, in the most case, you'd never met before, from all walks of Australian life back then. And you're only 20 years old, some of the blokes were only 18 years old, and there was a fair bit of excitement, but you seem to be living in an old museum, old wooden barracks, and the discipline for us was a bit of a shock, but compared to what the Army were probably going through in Kapooka, it was fairly lax. So the emphasis initially was on formal discipline and formal drill and physical fitness, and then ground school, learning about weather and flight, and a little bit about manners and how to behave in polite society, but very rushed. And it was obvious that the Air Force was short of people, and particularly flying instructors, because it had been a small Air Force only several years earlier, and there are a lot of lone Royal Air Force instructors and a lot of laterally recruited ex-Royal Air Force instructors helping the training system going. So they were exciting times, and you didn't really have time to worry about much except, am I going to get through? I felt comfortable with the flying. I'd never flown before, but I was quite airsick in the Windjill, and that wasn't unusual, but I stayed airsick on the Windjill till the end of flying, so about 120 odd hours, and I got better at it, but I lost a lot of weight. I probably went from about 84 kilos, surfing, down to about 72 kilos, and in the first few weeks, because I just couldn't keep the food down. But I could still fly, and I just learned how to deal. I couldn't talk because my mouth was full, but I could continue to fly and carry out the actions, whereas normally you'd end up scrubbed off course if you didn't shape up. So every time I went out, I got lots of emergencies. I managed to prove that I could at least survive, even if I couldn't fight, that I could save the aircraft and my own backside. And my first solo was delayed because of the air sickness. The instructors were pretty good. They seemed to be there, at least for me, to get me through rather than to scrub me, but there was no doubt if they had to, they would. But eventually I got sent solo at long last, and then you just stayed in the circuit at Point Cook. And I remember the first time I came around base, I went to transmit the base call and get the landing clearance, and of course I chundered, but I didn't spill a drop. I just re-swallowed it, went around, and after about the third attempt with this repeating, I got a green light from the tower because I could hear what they were saying, and the instructor and the duty instructor were getting a bit worried about, what was going on, am I ever going to land, and whether they're going to have a court of inquiry. But I landed okay, taxied in, and Bob Maggs was the instructor, good bloke, and he ran over and said, you know, what was going wrong? When I told them, they both burst out laughing. So a bit of a relief for them and for me. So, but that continued even in the final handling test. By that stage, it was the middle, towards the first half of '68. I think I had 3 bouts of air sickness in the final handling test, but I got through, and then graduated with the rest of my mates, and minus a few, and then went to Pierce over in Western Australia, and then flew the Vampire, and I rarely got sick in the Vampire. So it may have been the fumes in the Windshield, and because it was a bit of a hairy beast for a basic trainer.